this out.
Well, you can edit it.
No, well, this right here, because it's recording right now. So we're going to start this off. All right, if you're watching this, it's because this was requested by a lot of our drivers here out of Ketch. I'm talking with Jim Casper. Jim Casper is one of our brown feeder drivers for now, but he's been driving tractor trailers for many, many years, and for a long period of time you were doing
Sleeper team. I fill in for a lot of the guys that I worked with prior to coming here. So we ran East Coast a lot of mountains through Tennessee and stuff. So West Coast was a little different. We learned a little bit more as we had a chain up. Never had a chain up until I started working here. So those types of things were a little bit different. Each state has their different laws. So you got to familiarize with yourself with that kind of stuff. So any questions then, Jim?
No, that's something you could go on the state, the particular state you're going into.
Yep.
Okay.
They have each state has their own web page, and or there is a company that I'm not sure what the name of it is, but if you Google in Pacific Northwest Mountains, they'll give you a set of states, and you can pretty much look at all of the state laws for chaining up.
Question: weather. Okay. We talk about, okay, I'm the co-chair over here at 710 out of Ketch. One of the things that we push, you're part of CHSP as well. We tell the guys, check the weather, where not only here at Ketch, but where you're going, but also what's going to be happening at Ketch by the time you get back.
Right.
Especially on those 600-mile turns. What are you dealing with when you're going from here to North Bay, California? What kind of weather, especially like this time of year, it's October right now.
Right.
What are you going to be dealing with when you're going through, I don't know, you tell me, you've done this, the Dakotas, Wyoming.
Yeah, so what you'll do is you'll basically start getting warnings. Usually they'll start submitting stuff over the radio frequencies, stuff like that. So if you got a specific area that you're heading to, they'll start breaking in the broadband frequencies and telling you that they're expecting a snowstorm on such and such a mountain, or this highway might be shut down in about 4 hours, 3 hours, depending on what's going on. There's different levels of what goes on with the weather itself. Level 1, level 2. Level 2 obviously is severity. That's usually something that they might just start shutting down the roads on it. For that reason there's signs that are on the side of the road when you enter the mountain. Also areas if you needed to chain up on the top. Not so much in the middle of it, but at the base, the top, and then at the bottom of the mountain. There is some areas, turn-offs briefly, but it gets very congested. Not too many people have enough time to actually get in there. So sort of know what's going on. Like I said, the frequencies going across the broadbands, AM, FM, that'll help you out, plus the warning signs itself on the side of the road.
So when we talk about weather, it's not just necessarily snow. We may be talking about, because I know a lot of guys before I came here, a lot of guys talked about wind shear.
Wind shear has a lot to do with up on the top. So one side of the mountain you might not receive any kind of wind shear, and coming on the back side of the mountain, depending on which side you're on, you're getting nailed with wind shear. Those are other things. Those are another warning systems that usually will come across. Your CB radio, if you have one, you'll have guys talking about it. Again, the warning signs on the side of the road will give you an idea what's going on with that. Also, they break into your radio frequencies and let you know what's going on.
So you'll get notified. I mean, you'll hear if it's a wind event, or if it's a cold weather event, or if it's a blizzard type winter event.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you was CB, yes or no?
Yes, I like running the CB. I don't usually talk on it with the person in the back sleeping. But I do monitor it. I usually put a earpiece or an ear plug into it, and I'll punch into the CB that way, and just to make sure that we got an up and up on accidents, those types of things, because you do have quite a few little small fender benders when you get out there in some of the bad weathers. You'll start seeing cars and trucks all over the place. So,
okay. So let me ask you a question. You get alerted that there's going to be a weather event. Okay, just for instance, let's say it's sub-zero.
Yep.
And we're talking snow as well.
Okay.
Okay. And it sounds like they may be shutting down the roads. What's your next plan of action if you're in the seat?
Well, a lot of times I'll address it at, I usually stop at a truck stop. Usually you get information through the truck stop itself, the driver's rooms. You can make a couple of phone calls to DOT, Department of Transportation. They'll notify you. That gets congested, but you can make a phone call. You can get notified that way if they have any a time limit where they're going to start shutting the roads down, gating them, those types of things. A lot of times, I really never had I think I was shut down one time, sitting at a truck stop. Luckily, wasn't on the highway itself. But those types of things, you just got to play it by ear. If you can go around something like that, that's only 300-400 miles, it might be worth your while if they're shutting it down for 8 hours, because sometimes it takes them 8 hours to clean up the highway, sometimes even more. They might shut it down for a day, they might shut it down for 2 days, depending on how bad the weather system comes through. So pre-plan a little bit, stop at a rest area or a truck stop and make a couple of phone calls, look at a map. If you got an iPhone, you can look at some of the weather coming in and make your decision that way.
So you could look at the radar and possibly, depending on how big the storm is,
without a doubt,
you could maybe drive a southerly route, or depending on what's
even a
going on,
northerly route.
Try to get away from the storm.
Correct. I mean, you might go through.
But it's something that I'm thinking you don't want to do
Yes.
without talking to CMG.
Right.
You talk to CMG first and
Yes.
find out what's going on.
Yes. And without a doubt. And this way you put you put a little game plan together, because Colorado might be getting hit, and you might go through Wyoming or something of that nature to get around something.
Okay.
Usually we don't. We go south every once in a while, but usually going further south is more out of the way than for going north. So certain ice bands, wind shears, snowstorms, those types of things, you're going to hit the mountains with them no matter what. You're going to be in perfectly good weather, and all of a sudden you're going to get to the top of the mountain. It's going to be snowing and icing. So expect it.
Okay. Clothing. I mean, I'm thinking you're not just wearing your Browns.
No.
You
got to pre-plan ahead a little bit, especially if you do have to chain up. Chaining up, it's something that I dreaded. Like I said, I didn't do it too often, but I did have to chain up a couple of times. The procedure of chaining up can be a little hectic in 6 inches of slush and ice and water. It's a little messy. It's a real pain in the butt. I always woke up the guy in the bunk to help me out a little bit. Primarily, he didn't have to get dressed for the weather, but I did. I had some elastic pants. They were, I don't even know what they were. They were more like plastic pants that I used to just throw on over my boots. And I was able to kneel down without getting my
just to stay dry.
pants. Yeah.
Just to stay dry.
Just to stay
so
dry.
then you could wake up the guy in the bunk. I
Just
mean,
to
not
move
that
the
you really
truck.
want to,
Yep.
but if you know it's coming, so
Right.
he could move the truck forward or backwards, depending on how
you
you're
want to
throwing
chain
your
up.
chains.
Yep. And it worked out good. And make sure when you're doing that you're in communication, that he has a visual visual of you
At all times.
At all times. So I either driver's side or passenger, I made sure that he was
Make
able
sure
to
you
see
hear
it.
those brakes get pulled
Yeah, set
before
to,
you start
because you don't
crawling
want
around
to put
it.
your hands in between a set of tandems
Yeah.
and have it start rolling.
Don't trust him just with the foot pedal.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Food. What I mean, I know a lot of these guys take their bottles of water. They take some lunches and stuff with them to carry, but I think that you may want to change that or tweak that when you're running in the winter.
Well, we always ran a refrigerator, so we always had ample amount of food, no matter who it was. But
Okay.
a couple of bags of jerky, or
Something like non-perishable.
something that's non-perishable was a good idea.
Okay.
Like I said, I've never been out there for 2 days in a row, so even a full bag of jerky, you're probably hungry by the time you
Right.
get done with the 2-day event.
But I mean, even if you're fortunate enough to have enough knowledge to say, okay, let's get off. It looks
Right.
like it's imminent.
Right.
Let's go to a truck stop.
Right.
That truck stop will eventually get cleaned out.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
Their shelves will go bare.
for the perishables, yes. I mean,
Okay.
because they'll take all of that stuff first. But usually the canned goods, there's always something there. But you got to have a can opener then, if you want a can of spaghetti.
I know a
So
lot of our
now-
guys run microwaves.
Right.
They have
right.
small microwaves in the truck, which I guess if I ran sleeper, I would recommend getting a microwave for the truck.
No, That's
That's a preference
right.
either way.
I mean, a refrigerator, I think that's more of a,
But you could heat up
a
food.
preference, but yeah,
especially if it's canned,
But-
you could heat it up.
you still got to get it out of the can.
Well,
You know, I mean, you got to
can
be
opener
able
and
to.
some.
You know, most truck stops will have a pull top can opener or can now.
Right.
Some of them don't, but like I said, the perishables and stuff that'll go first, and then next thing you know, all the canned items and
Again,
know.
that's if you're fortunate enough to be at
at a truck stop.
at a truck stop.
Right, right.
So you
Yeah.
may get shut down on the side of the road or at a ramp, or they make you get off, and you just have to sit tight until they're done clearing the roads out.
Without a doubt. Yep.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but make sure that you have something to take care of your nature side. Those are,
Yeah, in
you
case
know,
nature calls.
nature does call, and you know, you're sitting on the side of the tractor or a tire. You know,
It's not something we want to talk about, but if you're
no,
stuck in a
no.
blizzard and
So just make sure you have stuff like that for yourself, because it does
so,
happen.
hygiene products.
Yes.
Hygiene
Yes.
products.
Yep.
Okay. Chains. When and where?
Well, they usually will tell you at the turnarounds or the turnoffs when to chain. Lights will go on. Again, tier 2, tier 1, 10,000 pound gross weight, obviously. So we're all affected with that. So it'll say you have to chain in order to cross this mountain or this variation of stretch of highway. It doesn't necessarily have to be the highway either. You might have to chain up and flat. Could be all ice. So they'll let you know how far and where, usually on the radio frequencies again, and then the signs that are on the shoulder of the roads.
Okay.
My suggestion to you is each state's going to be a little different. Find out what mile markers on the highways and how far you have to go when you start seeing signs. This will give you an idea of where to look and start looking for a turnoff for you to chain up.
So they're going to let you know you need to chain up.
They're going to let you know, yes, without a doubt. They will not. You're going to see a lot of red flashing lights when
So,
they
you know it's
have
coming.
to. Right. When.
You're not going to get away without it.
Correct.
Okay. Chains. I know some of the guys hang them on the side of the truck.
Yep.
Some of the guys like to leave them inside the truck. But either way, if you get checked, because I was told that sometimes the state will pull you over
Yep.
and do a chain check.
Audit.
What is the procedure? They're either hanging on the side of the truck, where in this case the DOT officer can see them, or what's the procedure if you have them inside? They have to be easily accessible. Is that what the rule of thumb is? They have to be You can't have them buried under.
Right. They have to be accessible. It's something that you know. I don't think a police officer is going to actually turn around, and if you have to move a couple of things to get your chains out, it's going to be a big deal. But you do have to have them. So if you're in the state of Colorado and you need 3 sets of chains for 3 axles, you better make sure you have them. If you're in the state of California, up there by Washington, you know, they have. If you got a set of pups with a tandem, sometimes they want 5 sets of chains on that. So depending on where you're at, make sure that you know what axles needed, and
Sounds like so a minimum. It sounds like a minimum of what, 3 chains?
3 sets is what
3 sets.
normal. Yeah, that's
minimum.
Colorado.
At a
and-
minimum.
Right, right.
Okay.
Because you might have to chain a trailer. So depending on what state law. So I know Colorado, you'll have to chain both drives on the outside tires on the drives of the tractor, and either a front or rear or diagonal. I know a lot of guys will run diagonal, one rear on the outside and then on the axle, and then one front one on the opposite side. But
Opposite
each state has different variations of what you want to do.
Okay. So you'll get notified when it's time to chain.
Yes.
Okay. But not all states require chains.
No.
Colorado, we know for a fact, requires the
Yes.
chains between certain times of the year. They have to be on the truck.
Yeah, it's usually September 1st starts everything off, goes to May 1st. You're supposed to have them on or hanging or in your tractor, so if you do get pulled over between those times, you can be issued a ticket.
So we know for a fact Colorado requires chains on the truck, but not all the states require
Correct.
chains on the truck, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
So you need to find out what the state laws are for each individual state that you're traveling in.
Okay.
And it's usually more the Pacific Northwest area. So you're looking at Wyoming, Colorado, I don't know quite Idaho and Utah, but I know California, Washington. Not so much the Dakotas. I mean, you're looking at more hills going through the Dakotas than mountains. So,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
I know Beartooth Pass was that was a hazard. That was a real pain in the butt. So,
Okay. One of the things that I've told, again, I've never done the sleepers, but I've been doing this a long time. I just haven't done sleepers.
Right.
I know that you have to make sure your fuel is ready to rock and roll. Okay, so
Yep.
if you're filling up in California and you're going to be going through, say, Wyoming or the Dakotas, and they're
Correct.
expecting sub-zero
Zero
temperatures,
weather.
they're telling you it's coming. You need to get that fuel treated
Right. So here's how
right now.
the fueling system works. Okay. Each state gets a fuel drop in certain areas, and it's done by certain areas. So Central Illinois is going to be a little different than Northern Illinois, and the same thing as far as your states that they have hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold.
Right.
So you know, your northern states like Wisconsin, I don't think it really varies. You know, if you get blended fuel, it's pretty much blended fuel throughout the whole
Right.
the state itself. Okay, so you're gonna get into them states like California, where you can be in Southern California fuel, and you're gonna wind up having a issue if you don't blend your fuel. And then too much additive is no good either. So find out if they're blending the fuel, and there are websites for that too. It'll get you, you know, it'll say we're good to 10 below. And you know you got 20 or 30 below weather coming in, you better get some additive in that fuel.
And it's usually,
So-
the shop here has additive.
The shop here has it.
Take a couple bottles with you, because you're back to catch every week.
Yeah, at least a couple of bottles, especially if you know that they're forecasting sub-zero weather. The mountains get even chillier up there with the wind shear, so you know, you could be minus 40 up on top, and you know, maybe, you know, a 10 above at the base on one side, and you know,
Right.
40-degree on the other.
Right.
So I mean, it's
So-
got that much of a difference.
So when it
in,
comes to the additive, the anti-gel we're talking about,
Yes.
we're looking at one bottle, half in each tank, correct?
Depends.
If it's going to be that,
If you're already
like
have
the
blended
polar
fuel-
vortex we had,
Right, right.
would you recommend one bottle in each tank?
I think the ratio was, what is the ratio?
I mean-
Each
I mean, rule of thumb, it's like one bottle, you pour half in each side.
you got to read the label. Read the label for, you know, you always want to do a -30, -40 blend. By reading the label on it, because I know Howell's is a little different than diesel fuel products and
Right.
and some of
But,
the other
but I
stuff.
think the rule of thumb here is if you know it's
Here-
coming, and if you guys are if you guys are running sleeper,
Right.
you need to be paying attention to the weather. You need to get that fuel blended and going and treated long before you get into that area.
So you're leaving with treated fuel usually out of here, but it's not something that you want to run into Canada with. So if you're running, you know, across the mountains, you're going to add some anyways, you know, some conditioner to it. And you don't want to add it until you get out to the mountainous areas. I mean, for you to add an extra of, you know, 24 ounces or 12 ounces or whatever you're going to put in it for 500 gallons, until you get out for your next fuel stop into the Colorado area or the Wyoming area or something of that nature, no sense of wasting it. I mean,
Okay.
you know, to run it across the flatlands and a little bit of hills, I mean, it's not going
Right.
to affect you.
Let me check this real quick. I can always edit this out. Make sure we're still recording here, which we are. Okay. One more thing I want to cover with you is mountain driving,
Yep.
stab braking. I know it works.
Yeah, I'm not a stab breaker. I usually try to go down. Up is easy. I mean, it's a piece of cake
Yeah.
unless you're skidding
You're
around.
not going
a
to
little
lose
bit.
control going up the mountain.
But usually in bad weather, the sleeper teams, I believe, will lock out in 6th gear. Usually about 30 mile an hour, depending on what you're doing. I mean, I've crawled up and down them as slow as 5 and 10 mile an hour. So driving style has a lot to do with it. Stab braking, I don't usually, I'll drag the brake, but I consider it a little different if you consider that stabbing.
Well, when I was talking about stab braking, that's in ideal conditions. I'm not talking in a snow-covered pass.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what stab braking is, basically what you don't want to do is ride your brakes going down a mountain.
Correct.
And
you definitely want to be able to lock into a gear and maintain that. I'm usually about 300 to 400 RPM, so I don't want to climb more than 200 or 300 RPM because then the tractor tires will start breaking loose on you. Even chaining up, that's not a cure-all for all the weather. I mean, it's when it gets bad out there, you're going to be slipping and sliding around. So especially with ice on the bottom side and a lot of snow around on top because it starts pushing you.
Right.
So
if we're not dealing with snow and inclement weather and we're just going down the mountain, usually it's a posted speed limit maximum for the trucks. In many cases, it's like 30 miles an hour or even 25 miles an hour, correct? That's your maximum speed limit. So therefore, once you hit 25 miles an hour, that's where I talk about stab braking. And stab braking is putting a lot of pressure on the brakes, and you want to get that down to about 10 miles an hour under the speed limit. So if it's 25 miles an hour, you want to get it down to 15 miles an hour and let the truck gradually crawl up to 25. Once it hits 25, you apply firm pressure to the brake pedal again, release the pedal, it cools the brakes off. Once you get back up to 25 miles an hour, you repeat the process all the way down the mountain. Keeps the brakes nice and cool.
So your 6 degree decline is, I think that's about all you're going to do is 6 degrees on that. I know there's a couple other ones, but I think on the roads that we're traveling, and you'll gain in a quarter of a mile, you'll gain 5 miles per hour on a fully loaded 80,000 pounds. So just make sure that you're slowing down. 10 is a good rule of thumb. I don't go over 5, so if the speed limit's sitting at 25, I'll start braking. By the time it reaches 30, you're already slowing down again. So, but I'm not overheating the brakes that way.
Right. Anything else you want to
add? Lighting. Make sure that you got a waterproof light. You drop it in a mud puddle or a puddle of snow or salt out there. You want to make sure that it still lights. And then headlamps. I'm a firm believer going out there with a headlamp too. This way you can see everything.
Cap.
Yep.
Okay, or the ones that you could just put over.
Yeah, something that just straps around a billiard cap or stocking cap, and you can position it anytime you want.
So
you can actually see in case you have to have 2 hands and you put your flashlight somewhere. So.
I know Harbor Freight sells the contractor style rubber insulated gloves. They're like $7-8. They go all the way up to here.
Yeah.
They're red in color. They're very warm, but more importantly, they're waterproof.
Right.
They're waterproof for chaining.
The biggest thing with chaining is just the tool itself. If you're using a slick glove, you want something that's got to have a little sandy in it, grip in it. But a slick glove, that thing will fly out. So you got to be careful with that. Make sure that you get a firm grip. And I like leather. I'm not a big rubber glove guy, but it's your preference. Whatever you want.
And then the chains that we do have, they're for they're the proper size for the sleepers that we have.
Yes.
And they have the key in the bag.
The key,
which is for the
key
cam,
should be in the bag.
Which is for the cam, and then you should have one spider monkey per chain, right? Spider bungee per chain.
Yeah, the spider, if it calls for that, put them on there. It's always a safety. If it doesn't, it all depends on who makes the chain itself. So, but that's it.
So it's a lot of planning. Know where you're going, know what the weather is, know what kind of fuel you have going into that area. Blend it if you have to, add the anti-gel if you have to.
I would consider maybe a couple of quarts of 911.
Anti-gel?
Yeah, I mean,
which the shop has. Our shop has.
Yep, just to be
prepared.
Yep.
Just to be prepared. 2 sides. Warm clothing, have some provisions. God forbid you get stuck somewhere. And if you're good at reading the radar, call CMG and see if you could drive around it. Route south, route north.
Right.
You know, it may be better to drive a few hundred miles out of your way than to sit for 24 to 30 hours or
Yeah, a
36
few hundred I
hours.
wish. It's usually about 300 to 400, maybe even
Yeah.
5. But
Yeah.
you're sitting there for a day or so, it makes up the difference in a 10-hour, 10-hour
Right.
drive span. So just think about that too. I
Right.
mean, that's
But your safety's priority number one.
yep. So
Safety's priority number one. So be safe out there. When you're done watching this video, I will have comments open all the way at the bottom. So it would be great if you guys amongst yourselves started leaving comments for each other. Let's keep it clean, or else I'll shut it down, of course. And if you got something that maybe you want to address, you want us to address, I could bring it to Jim, and we can make him another video and post it. But yeah, leave some comments down there, and let's encourage each other. Let's give each other the knowledge we need to be out there. It's a dangerous profession. We just want to get back home to our families.
Yep. So, and the bottom line, like I said, they'll give you the information. Whether or not you use the information, it's up to you. Make sure that your fuel is blended. Make sure that you can sustain, minus 40. Usually that's about where you're at. I've never had a problem with something that was worse than that. But again, things have a different way of planning itself out, because you'll go up that mountain at 10 degree, 20 degree, and all of a sudden you get that wind shear coming through the Canadian side, and the other side's negative 40, and you got an ice and snow blizzard. So,
And make sure you don't lock yourself out of the truck. And one thing you may want to look into is if you have your keys, you may want to put, because this happened to me, is I dropped the key to my tractor in soft powder.
Okay.
I couldn't find the damn key in the snow.
Okay.
So sometimes guys would put, I seen them put like a strap that they would connect to the key. So if it falls in the snow, you could just follow the strap and pull it right back out of the snow.
I've never shut the sleeper team truck off. I've always cracked the window when I had certain situations.
That's what I do with the
like that.
Browns.
So,
Even with the key in my pocket, I leave the window about
Yeah.
that much just in case.
We all
I
always
gotta
had a
get back
spare
in.
truck if you ran in, but if you're just doing stuff around the truck itself, I mean, I always crack the window. I didn't
So you
really
can
worry
stick your
about
arm in there.
just to have that
Play it
safety.
safe.
Yep.
So, all right, leave some comments, encourage each other, and if you got something to add, we could always address it in another video.
Yep.
Tell us what you guys want, and we'll try to give you guys as much information as we can.
Experience. I mean, that's the bottom line. You're going to get it no matter what. So, I don't, everything is going to be different. Every scenario is going to be a little different. So just don't get yourself rattled. That's the
And some
biggest
people,
thing.
there may be some veteran guys that may look at things or not necessarily agree with the way you do it or what. Either way, just learn as you go.
You still white
listen.
knuckle it. I mean, you still, no matter how many years experience, because like I said, there's different scenarios for everything that you do, and I don't care what driver's out there. You're going to get yourself, certain situations are going to bother you more than others.
Right.
Ice is one of mine coming down. Snow, I don't have a problem with. So,
Right.
If I know that I'm skidding around all over the place on ice, that's a little bothersome to me. But again, everybody's going to have their own little niche.
Right. So be careful out there. Priority number one is your safety and your partner's safety. Get home, earn a good buck, go home to your families at the end of the week.
That's it.
All right?
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Jimmy.
Please tell me it's still recording. Beautiful.